Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, gang. How are we? Everyone's looking sort of fresh-faced and bright this morning. Good start to the day. Raphi, what you been up to?
Yeah, I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning to go to a 1 hour and 15-minute yoga class. It was I'm proud I did it. It wasn't an easy start to the day, but you know, when you're done with it, it feels good and you're pretty happy you did it.
An hour and 15 minutes is a long time for yoga, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you regret halfway through that you've gone to the class? I think I would.
There was definitely a moment where I was like, what am I doing here at this time? But no, I mean, the minute you're done with it, you're like, okay, you definitely feel all the benefits. So I would do it again.
Love it. Was it a particularly energetic yoga, or my favorite one's when you arrive and there's loads of cushions in the room and blocks, and kind of like the restorative, I think they call it. That's my favorite.
Those are definitely my favorites as well. No, this one, it's a morning yoga, so the point is to get energized. So yeah, it was definitely full of movement and poses and stuff. So, but good stuff.
Love it. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, keep me honest. I went to the gym this morning. I did. I went to my class on the schedule. It literally says bum, I think, or butt or whatever is the Catalan. That's all it says. That's the name of the class. Nothing fancy. It's full of older ladies that first couple of times I went, I was like, there's no way this class is going to do anything. Oof. Yeah. No, great. I'm glad I went. And I got showed up by all the retired ladies who go every day. What about you, Leo? Do any exercise this morning?
I'm glad we have been keeping you honest, Sarah, but I've got to say, like, you don't need us to hold you to account. You're just doing it. You're going.
Yeah. When I set my mind to something, I usually am pretty good about staying focused.
I love it. So I managed to jog this morning. I managed it. It was good. And I kind of needed to because it's actually bloody hot here. So I needed to go early. So I had a nice 7K run around the place and it was nice. It was really good. In prep, so I'm going to have to get used to the heat because I'm going to your home country next week, Sarah, for IMN. I'm in Austin. So we've got some pretty good temperatures coming my way there, I think.
Sounds good. Well, keep it weird, Leo. Don't be normal. They won't let you in.
Maybe I can even record from Austin. Oh, that's fun. That's a fun thought. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Now, was everybody at butt class getting ready for the 3-day weekend, Sarah, in Barcelona? Was that really what was going on?
They were, yeah. In fact, there's no classes on Monday. So it is a holiday on Sunday and on Monday. So it's the night of San Juan, which basically the government lights a bunch of bonfires on the beach, and then you go down to the beach. And the original idea is kind of to celebrate the summer solstice. And so you take something that is no longer serving you from the previous year, and that could be something that you write down on a piece of paper. I've seen people who went through a breakup and brought a teddy bear that their ex gave them and threw it in the fire. So you never know what you're going to see. But the idea is to get rid of something that's no longer serving you, and then you use the new moon, and then you go for a nice dip in the sea, and that is like rejuvenating you into the new year. So it's super nice. In reality, it turns into like everybody just drinking on the beach, but that was the original idea.
I think that's really cool. I wish I'd thought about this more. I could have come up with an answer of what I'd like to get rid of, what I'd throw in the fire. Also, side point, there's no way that the UK government would ever light bonfires and let people throw things into bonfires.
Yeah, Spain loves fires, and they love any like pyrotechnics, anything firecrackers. They're all, love it.
Yeah, I like it. It's such a good attitude. It's like, to hell with it. Let's take a risk. Let's light the fires. Let people throw.
Oh yeah,
things
I mean, don't worry. The fire department is there always, like on call. You know, they're just loitering. The fire department usually is the one who kind of controls everything. So, never heard of fire departments controlling fires or lighting them, but that's the way it's done.
Well, I look forward to hearing from you next week to find out what you threw in the fire, and obviously hearing what you saw on the fire in that particular day. Raphi, what about you? What you got going on?
Wakeboarding on Sunday. There's also the F1 race, which somehow some friends of mine have really pulled me into watching, but mainly because we just do an event kind of around it, and we'll always like eat the local food of where the race is happening. So on Sunday it's Spain. Sarah, if you have any recommendations on what we should pair as like cocktails or food, we're definitely gonna get jamon from some store in NC and
vermouth. Get vermouth.
Okay, I will. That's a good one. But yeah, wakeboarding and F1 on Sunday. Otherwise, no plans.
Has this interest in F1 been sparked by that Netflix documentary that everyone talks about?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, I don't go for the F1. I'm just not interested yet. I go for the food and the fun basically around that. And yeah, I mean, so far I've actually stayed through the whole races. I've done two now. So we'll see if Sunday I manage to stay until the end of the race this time. I don't know. We'll see.
I think I feel a bit like F1 about the way you feel about all sports, Raphi, which is I can really take it or leave it. I really don't care, but I think I could definitely come on board for the eating the food and drinking the booze of the country. That's a nice way to make it more interesting, I think. Now, talking of Raphi's disdain for sport, Sarah, I was really excited, and Raphi knew what she was doing. By the way, this was a total wind up. She sent me first of all, it's exciting just to get a text from Raphi. I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is a great thing. A picture of her in a bar watching the football, and she's like, hey, guess where I am? And I was like, wow, that's great. Have you got the bug? She's like, nah, it was boring.
Well, to be fair, the race was boring. There was only one goal, right? Yeah. I guess some of them are more interesting. We'll see. I just did that one.
So Euro fever has not quite arrived in Raphi's life, but Sarah, tell us, has the continent gone mad for the Euros? Ed and A have been looking at this, right?
Yeah, Erdina's been looking at it. So you got your wish, Leo. I actually have some data, and I don't really care about the Euro Cup, but the data to me is interesting. So you're in luck. I'll share with you guys kind of some updates. So demand, we're showing demand up in every single city across Germany in June and July, which is really interesting. So it's kind of reflective of increased demand even outside of the days where the events are being held, which is great for German short-term rental hosts. In the 10 host cities, there's already a 23% increase in demand for the group stage dates, which I don't really know what that means, but 14th through the 26th of June, as compared to with the 2 weeks prior. And even more interesting to me is the success in demand spikes in smaller cities. So Stuttgart, Gelsenkirchen, please don't get offended, our German listeners, and Dortmund. So all of them are at well over 100% demand growth. The same is happening for occupancy rates. So occupancy rates are following demand. We're seeing those same smaller cities having a massive increase. Compared with Berlin and Munich, for example, we're not seeing a huge uptick. I think that's normal. The demand in those cities is pretty consolidated already for normal summer travel. And so there's not a huge impact on the Euro Cup. And also it makes sense, I think, when you just look at the number of short-term rental listings there. The only confusing thing, I guess or something we have to keep in mind when we talk about occupancy and increases in occupancy, because it can sound really exciting, but it's not the same. It can be kind of misleading to compare a city like Berlin, where there's an average of over 18,000 listings on a monthly basis, with a smaller city like Gelsenkirchen, which has an average of about 200 listings. So obviously the percentage growth on that is going to look much more interesting, even if it's only a couple of listings. So I think for me, the thing that stands out is that there has not been any significant supply growth. So normally when we have a major event like this, in off-peak season, there's usually a pretty significant growth in supply of new short-term rental listings or people putting their property up just for the event. We're not seeing that. I think there's two things here. One is the fact that June and July are already sort of peak season. So normally anyone who's willing to rent out their property already has it on. But we're not seeing that in the data. And then kind of the final thing is for anyone who has not booked yet, expect to pay higher rates. So rates are on the rise. In the 2 weeks leading up to the Euro 2024, available rates have been 27% higher than booked rates on average. And for what's already available or still available on the market to be booked, all of those rates are 45% higher than what has already been booked. So it's nearly a difference of 40 euros a night. So Leo, if you're thinking of making any last minute crazy moves, expect to get your wallet out, buddy.
I can't imagine getting away with that. Imagine that a week in Austin, then I come back and go, can I go and watch the England game in Berlin or Munich or wherever we are? No, I think it's an interesting one. It's going to be so interesting to reflect on this later on in the tournament or after the tournament, because genuinely, I think I spoke about this ahead of time. People don't know yet if their team's going to make it to the knockout, and that's going to stimulate that last minute demand. So if I was a host in any of the host cities, I'd absolutely be holding my nerve pricing wise, right? And it makes me think there's probably a sort of fan swapping OTA that could be built. So if people thought their team were going to end up in this stream and they bought in this host city, they can swap with people that have ended up in the wrong place as well. Because it only takes the team not to do as well as people predicted, and they finish second in their group, and then they might be in a different route to the final, which might involve different cities. So it's very, very cool. Interesting about Munich and Berlin, and goes back to the point I think we made around the Eurovision Song Contest, much more your jam, Sarah, that, you know, these hosting cities, I think you have to think carefully about it if you're a big capital, whether you actually need the tourists to come in for this particular event, or whether it cannibalizes your summer anyway. I think the jury's out in Paris, right? We're going to reflect on that later in the summer as to whether that was the right move for Paris or whether they've just ended up cannibalizing and putting people off from going. But certainly smaller places. Shout out to Stuttgart. That's where my partner's family are from. Beautiful little city in Germany, about a million people living in and around it. These places, I think it does put them on the map for a summer, and it makes total sense. And I wonder if this data will sort of, I guess, encourage other smaller towns when there is the opportunity to host events around a larger sporting event to bid to be part of them, because clearly the uptick there is huge. And I referenced as well when I was a much younger chap, and England hosted Euro 96. I remember my city was absolutely buzzing with foreign tourists and all such things. So yeah, exciting, very, very cool. Raphi, any thoughts? Do you care? Are you bothered?
Well, having watched one game on Monday, I understand the excitement. It's true that when you're part of that and you're like in one of the cities where the game's actually playing, I can understand that there's that really cool vibe that's going on. And yeah, but other than that, I don't really have any other comments.
Any sense, Sarah, if people are going on to have further holidays elsewhere in Europe after they've arrived in Germany, or not yet?
Yeah, no, not really sure, to be honest. For us, it's really difficult to track something like that unless there's a review left, for example, by the same host, but it's not something or by the same guest, but it's not something we've looked into. It's an interesting question, but no data to back that up. So I'll plead the fifth.
I suspect probably not, because I think it's people traveling from Europe for the tournament. I don't think we're getting outside of Europe visitors unless you're real football fans, of which there are a few in the US, but I don't know, maybe US travel where people are traveling longer to get here might take in that multi-city trip. No, great. Well, look, it's really exciting. I think just what we needed after quite a bruising round of European elections was to then get onto the sporting field and start having a bit more fun collectively. And I can say we, because even though we made the terrible mistake of Brexit, we're still in the European Championship football tournament. So we're part of it again, you know?
I mean, Australia and Israel are in the Eurovision Song Contest, so why not?
Everyone wins. Thanks, Sarah. That's great. We'll keep looking at it. I'm sure we'll reflect after the tournament as well. Let's get into our first article today, which is from Bloomberg. The mayor who sees Airbnb as an agent for good. Raphi, tell us a little bit about this one.
So this is about Porto taking a bit of a different stance to regulation when it comes to the short-term rental industry in their city. And I think this is a really interesting article because we haven't really seen regulation like this before. I feel like it's a much more balanced approach than what we're seeing usually. Essentially, the mayor has taken the time to understand the benefits of our industry and what we bring to the city, but also taking into consideration the disadvantages and working around all of that. And so when it comes to regulation, what they're doing is similarly to other places, they're going to be limiting the arrival of new short-term rentals in areas of the city that are already too busy. But then they're going to be prioritizing short-term rentals in areas which need regeneration. So, areas around the main hotspots. And that's generally going to be benefiting the local economy and infrastructure, because essentially what the mayor has said is they see Airbnb as potential catalysts for urban regeneration by bringing tourists and investment into these neglected areas. So Porto obviously is tackling this the housing crisis here, but also looking at the benefits of our industry and how that can help some of the challenges that they're facing. And one of the other challenges that they're facing is obviously the climate crisis, which isn't only Porto facing this. I think it's a general challenge. But what they're seeing is they're trying to attract a specific type of tourism, which is repeat visitors to the city. And I find this really interesting because this approach is basically emphasizing quality over quantity when it comes to tourists, and aims to attract visitors who basically appreciate, the city's culture, its history, and who are essentially likely to return. And this has, benefits to the local communities as well, which is really interesting. When it comes to sustainability, there are other factors that they're looking at. So they have a specific case of heavy rainfall in certain periods of the year. So they're looking at solutions to that, and also the carbon emissions. They're really trying to promote public transportation, cycling, and walking. But overall, this article is really showing how the city is looking at all the different challenges that they're facing, and essentially taking a holistic approach to how they're going to face these challenges and tackle them. But for me, it's really, really great to see a city that's actually understanding our industry and the benefits that we're able to bring to a city, and not simply ruling us out like we've seen in other places. So yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts on maybe, what do you think of Porto's regulations compared to other regulations that we're seeing around Europe and even in the world? There's the case of New York and Scotland, which are taking much more drastic approaches. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I think also one of the things that short-term rentals are great at, that maybe, for example, a hotel is not going to go and build in one of these neighborhoods that is maybe farther from the city center. The great thing about an Airbnb or a short-term rental is that kind of the whole USP of these types of properties is live like a local. And so typically travelers are, as long as it's well communicated, which I was told is not English the other day. That is a Spanishism. Well connected with public transit. As long as it is well connected to public transit, then it's a viable option for travelers who typically are looking for a short-term rental. And so, just as you say, it can be not only a great way for visitors, but also in the article, there's mention of an influx of expats kind of moving there. So people from France, people from the US, who are moving there as digital nomads, essentially. And oftentimes, whenever they start out their journey, they're staying in a short-term rental. They do that probably more on a midterm basis, but that can be a really great way as well for tourism to kind of expand, and also our definition of what tourism is, I think. I think we're so often thinking, okay, it's this massification and it's all these types of things, rather than, as you mentioned, somebody who's a repeat visitor. So whether that is a digital nomad or whether that is somebody who's moved there and the person who's staying in the short-term rental is a friend or a family member who's coming to visit them, I think they're viable options for sure. So I think it's really interesting. I'm glad that somebody's finally looking at it with a different lens rather than just going straight for the ban. There was also a mention in the article where basically it's easier to get a license if you take over an abandoned building. And so it's a great way of kind of promoting the rehabilitation of the city as well. I've been a couple of times, and I think there's streets in Porto where you're like, wow, this is gorgeous. And then all of a sudden there's like an abandoned building and you're like, it doesn't mesh. So I think if there's a way that those two things can be combined, I think it's a great initiative.
It's just great to hear a mayor thinking about things differently, isn't it? And thinking about the positive impact of our industry. I think you said that, Raphi. I've also been to Porto a couple of times, once for a conference, actually. Maybe you guys have been to that one, VRWS. Cool, really cool city. I love Porto. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. Portugal in general, I think, is one of those, well, let's say specifically Lisbon and Porto are two places I think that have really come alive since tech-enabled home sharing's become very, very mainstream. I think it was in the article about growth of booked nights just continuing to rise there up to 6 million or something like that, Raphi. You'll probably have that data. But that's not because they're building a ton more hotels. It's because they've got this really proactive approach to seeing the positive side of short-term rental. And again, this is even smarter to say, look, there's areas where we're already saturated, so we're not going to hand out more licenses. And there's areas where we need to stimulate regeneration. We think this is a really good first step to doing it. Let's enliven these areas of the city that just need a bit of thought and a bit of care, bringing the tourists into areas that you want them to see. London had a similar thing with the 2012 Olympics, right? It picked a whole area that needed regeneration. And from that, it's something that can be a catalyst for that. Build it and they will come, right? Something like an Olympic Games. They did it fantastically well in London. All the facilities still get used. There's lots of apartments that young people have bought. It's created whole neighborhoods in an area that was primarily, essentially just an industrial estate and a bit of a wasteland. So I'm all for that sensible town planning. And it's so funny that when we get into this rut of talking about tourism in a negative way, and ultimately, like, if you bring tourists into your city, you do create that loyalty, especially if people come when they're young. And if you put short-term rentals in areas of the city that are slightly down at heel, it will be young people that come in because they're going to be more they're not going to be as concerned about things being a bit down at heel. They're going to find the more hip parts of the city, and the price is going to be lower. And then you create that loyalty for life, because people then go and say, oh my God, you got to go to Porto. It's a great place to hang out. It's a great place to be. And you really showcase your city. Because there's definitely parts of, and as a London resident, I have been for nearly 20 years, not from London, but have lived here my whole adult life. There's parts of London that I never go to because I'm completely priced out, and they lose that vibrancy. Knightsbridge, Belgravia, they are slightly lost to locals, and before you know it, they become less dynamic, and new neighborhoods pop up, and it moves around and it ebbs and it flows. So I think it's a amazingly brave decision for a mayor to say to everyone, look, think twice about this, because actually there's a lot of benefit from this. Because let's be honest, every mayor is trying to get re-elected, and people care so much about. I always say that short-term rental is just such a political football. It's really hard to avoid it. Like, policymakers don't want to be seen to be encouraging it, but this guy has gone perfect. I can see how this benefits my area, and I'm gonna. Also, there's a few digs at Lisbon in there, which I quite liked as well. So it's obviously seeing Lisbon as their competition for tourists. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. And I hope this can serve as some sort of blueprint across Europe for different areas. I think, Raphi, you mentioned this last week when we talked about, or the week before we talked about over-tourism. Clearly, you don't just want everyone going to the same spots year on year. So if different areas that feel like they need to stimulate tourists, even different cities, right? So a city might choose to say, we've got enough short-term rentals, and that might encourage someone to fly 2 hours further, or ideally get the train 2 hours further to another city that needs a bit of love, and they can then encourage it. So I think I would say, hopefully it just encourages policymakers to use this as an example and say, if our city in general needs a reawakening, let's encourage this and not just see it as a negative thing, right? Because we know in the industry it isn't, as long as regulation and approach is sensible and pragmatic.
Yeah, and the tourism isn't going away. The demand is definitely here to stay, and there are definitely benefits for cities to attract that tourism. But to do that in a really thought through way, such that it benefits the local communities as well. And there are definitely ways to do that. And it's not just black or white. Well, short-term rentals are the problem, and we need to get rid of them. It's actually, we actually can bring something positive just think about how we can bring that positivity and use this in the right way, basically. So hopefully, yeah, a lot of other European locations will be taking inspiration from this.
We need to get this mayor to a short-term rental conference.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Keynote speaker, right? First, let's organize it. Gang, I forgot to talk about as well at the start my short-term rental news of the week, which I'm sure you're both dying to hear, right?
Of course.
Tell us.
I'm excited, right? So I was really excited to read this. So Holidoo have partnered with Toplock, a platform for nature vacation rentals in France. Seemingly, it's not an acquisition this time. Obviously, a month ago, we focused on, I think it was you and I, Sarah, we focused on Holidoo's acquisition of Club Rural, Spanish OTA. This one, slightly different. This is a partnership, but still, I think part of, according to the article and what I'm reading, part of their overall strategy of allowing them to accelerate growth in markets close to them. And this move can be seen as a way of getting more traction and more growth in the French market. So I wanted to ask Raphi, Toplock, are they a household name in France?
So I'd never heard of them before reading this article, and it turns out they are actually based in Annecy as well.
No way.
Pretty crazy, yeah. So now I'm really interested, and I'm definitely going to look into them more.
No way. Go and get a coffee. Get the scoop.
Yeah. And they seem to have a very similar, I guess, product to ours, although theirs is less niche. I mean, it's still a niche, but they have products. So their homes are in mountains, but also, beach places, and it's not just mountains, whereas us, it's obviously just mountains. But yeah, I think it would be really interesting to talk to them and just understand who they are a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think Holidoo clearly aggressively going after the acquisitions and the partnerships. They referenced this 100 million euros Series E financing round from 2022 being used for this purpose, and clearly we're seeing more of that. Although, just to clarify, it's a partnership, not an acquisition. Clearly, the Toplock inventory is going to be available on Holidoo, and Toplock are going to benefit from Holidoo's booking engine, white label booking engine, which is very similar to what went on with Club Rural there. Smart move. I'm looking forward. I don't think there's much else to say on it, but I think we're going to see more of this over the next couple of months. And again, I think we need to be aware of it. But clearly, if they can find this growth in Europe this way, it seems again like they've picked another company where they assume some of this inventory is quite independent and not just all over every booking site. So unique, I should say, it's unique inventory. So I think it's a really smart move. Let's see how it plays. See how it plays through. Talking of niche, Sarah, you're going to talk to us today about let's go to the headline.
Yeah, FocusWire. So why niche can be nice in the massive world of online travel. And this is basically just a sort of a short summary of a panel that took place at Focusrite Europe. And the panel was all about how basically there was niche providers there. So for example, there was the founder of a company called Halal Booking, which is a halal focused booking platform. And essentially kind of the takeaways were this can open up new avenues for different types of tourism. And it's not necessarily in competition with the OTAs, because either these booking platforms are actually using the OTAs to find accommodation in many cases. So they're sort of a symbiotic relationship. And then the other thing was that it's opening up travel maybe to niche markets that either previously wouldn't have traveled or wouldn't have been as comfortable traveling to different types of destinations. And so it's opening up new avenues for tourism. So I just found it really interesting. I have a friend at work who her husband actually is a tour guide for halal tours. And so he actually, so like everything is planned to the T, and, he takes people around and shows them all different parts of Spain, and they have like accommodation, and they have restaurants, and they have options for prayer times and things like that I just had never heard of anything like that. And so when I saw this article, it sort of caught my attention, because I was like, oh, that's really similar to what my coworker's husband does. And so anyway, I thought I'd love to get your thoughts on it. I don't know if you guys have ever done anything a little bit more niche, Raphi, but if not, might be Might be an interesting avenue.
Personally, have I done any niche travel? I'm sure I have. I can't think of it right now, but I think it's a growing trend at the end of the day. Travelers are looking for always the more authentic, the less known experience. So I think that's also what's driving these companies to start in very niche or areas. I also just feel like it's a better, easier way maybe to start out in an industry which I would say is quite saturated already. So if you're going to start a new company in this industry, try to go for a niche because it's going to be easier there's less competition. There are more I guess the marketing is less expensive, more cost effective. You'll have a better time getting customer loyalty because you're actually responding to a specific target audience needs. And it's easier to be seen as an expert in that field and be credible. So yeah, I think that it's really great to start a new company in a niche for those reasons, especially if it's going to be an industry that's saturated.
Some of the tricks and tips there, I guess, are relevant to OVO Network, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it did make me think when I watched the video, and I was really pleased you referenced it, Sarah, because we've got a few clients. We have OTA clients as well as PM clients. We're across the industry. One of them's I'll mention one, High B&B, cannabis friendly rentals in Canada and America. Like, so cool, right? And I did when we were thinking about the episode, I just put there, I just typed into ChatGPT, find me, a place where I can smoke weed in my apartment in Toronto, and lo and behold, the first thing that came up was High B&B, above Airbnb, above whatever other sites there were on there. I can't quite remember. And I was like, that's very, very cool, isn't it? In the future of like AI search, you've said this a few times, Raphi, it's about going deep into things, sort of giving blogs, content, authenticity around what the niche might be. Like, it's actually much easier for High B&B to do that than Airbnb. And in this case, Airbnb haven't done that. So it was perhaps it's a vertical that's yet to really find its feet, and the next 5-10 years could be really interesting in that model as we all change how we search. I don't know, Raphi, if you think I'm stretching there. Maybe I'm being a bit whimsical, but does that feel like potentially something that could happen as AI search takes over?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, yeah, as I said in previous episodes, I think having a niche will definitely have benefits in this new search environment, with AI and stuff. It's definitely going to help.
Yeah. Love it. We're out of time again. I feel like we just need an hour, don't we? We need an hour.
Nobody wants to listen to us for an hour, Leo. Come on, give the people a break.
We need 15 minutes. We need to condense it. So nice to see. Everyone's got exciting weekends coming up, so I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week. Sarah, lovely to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you guys too.
Raphi, great to see you. Still waiting for those wakeboarding photos that you promised us.
Right. Okay. We'll see. Good to see you guys.
We'll see. Sarah, we're never seeing them, are we? We'll see.
We're never going to see those photos. No. You can send them on WhatsApp on a one-time open, Raphi, if you just...
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we were satisfied. We just want to see. We're not going to share them, I promise.
Thanks, gang. See you next time.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.